Hello, my name is Oracle Laura, and this is the Oracle Laura Show. Today I have a very special guest. His name is Brian Fitzpatrick. He's a screenwriter of horror and sci-fi. He's making some films, but he's also a very well-known award-winning author of a series of books, and they are called Meetcraft. Have I said that right, Brian? Meetcraft?
Perfect. Meetcraft, yes.
Great. So today we're going to be talking all about sci-fi and all about horror. And I just want everyone to check out his books once we're done here. That's called Meetcraft. And he's, like I said, he's got 3 books of those, and he's also screenwriting. So Brian, why don't you tell me the storyline? Start off with how you got started on that first book and what the storyline is, and how it led into the other 2.
Well, first, thanks, Laura, for having me on. I really appreciate it, the opportunity. And I've been screenwriting for about 10 years and writing stories since I was about age 7, thanks to accidentally watching Night of the Living Dead and at such a young age. It was terrifying, but I couldn't get over how afraid I was, yet be perfectly safe. And that just got me on a kick of this idea of horror. And my mother encouraged me to write a story about it, and I did, and I've been writing horror and science fiction ever since. So Metcraft actually came to me as a screenplay first. I read an article in a medical journal about how nanotechnology would soon be used in operations, like to inject it into a cancer patient, and the nanotech would have the intelligence to attack cancer cells and leave healthy cells alone, and then deactivate and leave the body. And I thought, well, what if this nanotechnology inside of a person was sentient and could communicate with its host, and the host could summon the nanotech right through their skin and become shapes of anything looking like metallic shapes. And that sparked an idea of, what if scientists couldn't agree on what to do with this new tech, and then they ended up waging war with each other secretly. And my main character is the first ever person born with this nanotechnology inside of his DNA. So all the 3 warring factions decide he's going to be the game changer for them, because his powers will be different than anybody else's. And they're right. So that's the basic story, is our teenage hero Jake trying to get to safety in the first story. But it explores this whole world, this secret underground in Los Angeles of warring scientists who are deciding what to do with this amazing technology.
We're talking superpowers then, are we?
Yeah, it's very similar. It has a kind of a flavor of a superhero origin story, but it's a lot darker. It's more akin to something. One reader commented that the first story feels like The Matrix meets Harry Potter. And I
That's
was
what
like,
I was
eh.
thinking. I was sort of getting dressed for our show, and I was thinking, I feel like I should be dressing like Trinity or something. I had this feeling it was going to sort of go Matrixy.
And it has that sort of slick sci-fi action-y feel to it. It's very fast-paced. So it started as a screenplay, and it placed in 7 competitions and was getting me meetings, but nobody was buying it. They're all telling me it's just too pricey, it's too expensive on an unknown IP. So a friend of mine in the industry said, well, why don't you just rewrite it, convert it to a novel, and build a following, and then those same agents and producers and studios will come to you. And after I got over my crying and had the idea of having to redo this whole thing, I banged my head against the wall and realized he was right. I needed to build an audience to make the story more attractive to those people I wanted to make a film out of. And one book ended up becoming 3 novels. And I had a really great publisher who gave me an amazing deal. Black Rose Writing is the publisher. They not only wanted to, at the time I submitted a sequel to them, and they not only wanted the sequel, but they wanted to publish the original as well. And then a few months later, they offered me the contract on the 3rd book. And now all 3 books are out.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful that it's turned into a trilogy. Yeah, you were saying that, to attract those who are interested. That's true. Like, I've learned that myself. Everyone who knows me, some people don't know me if they're watching this, but everyone who does know me, they know that I'm a psychic medium. Not everyone's a believer. We're gonna get a little bit more into my superpowers in a minute here, but it's true. You know, you can't convince those who don't believe to believe in it. You have to just allow those believers to come to you. And that's something very important that I've learned. You know, you can only help the willing and only work with those who are interested. Now, I noticed, getting back to your book though, I noticed that you've chosen to make it about a teenager, and that's interesting because now what you're doing is you're gearing towards the teen crowd. So I had a very important question for you.
Sure.
Are you considering going into making it into a movie and maybe even like video games?
You know, it's a good question. My original goal ultimately was to do a film trilogy, but given the climate in film industry and TV industry, I feel we're in a golden age of television with so much awesome streaming shows. I thought this would make actually an excellent series with each book being a season. And so I'm retooling my approach to be more of a streaming platform piece
Now,
versus film trilogy.
would you consider starting at, you know, sometimes there's certain steps that we follow and other times you can go against that. You don't have to follow a set pattern, but I was thinking maybe start with looking at maybe make it into a comic book next,
I've
and
actually
then video games, and then movie.
and it's good. That's a very good point. You're like reading my mind. I've gone that route. I've
I'm known for
investigated
that.
and I've gone
Right
that
here.
route. Yeah, actually, I've gone that route. I've investigated comic transferring into a comic book, a nice graphic novel that would really be, I think, a good way to showcase what the show could be, as well as video games. I actually have an idea for 2 video games for it, and just a matter of getting those launched. And those take a lot more research. So right now, I'm focusing on the books. In fact, my publisher said they want more books. So at first I was like, no, it's just a trilogy. But now that they've thrown down the gauntlet, I'm thinking, oh, I need to outline 3 more books. So we're at that point now too.
So getting back to your fans and those who love your book, what are their, like, what do they say are their favorites in regards to your book? What in the storyline, and what part of your character, and what actions, what powers does he have? What are the things that they say are their favorites above all else?
Well, this is the really cool thing about the Meetcraft power is that they literally can summon this liquid metal from their skin to form any weapon or tool or shape they can think of. It's all a matter of what their own skill level can handle. So think of like the movie Terminator 2, how the Terminator was all liquid metal, chrome looking.
Yes.
This picture that coming out of someone's hand and then forming shapes. And so with our character, right? With our character Jake as a hero, his special power that no one else has is he's able to use his mental facilities to disrupt the nanotech, the Meetcraft of his enemies. So if they're coming at him with something, he can just basically turn their item into dust, and that of course freaks everyone out. You know, all of the other Meetcrafters are terrified of him, which makes him like sort of an ultimate weapon. But the fans overall, the most comments I get is the villain, Sasha. She is the fan favorite by a large margin. It was a total accident. It was a surprise. I do love writing her, but her madness and her obsession with controlling our hero Jake just really appeals to a lot of people in the fact that she believes herself the hero. Her goal with her faction of army is that Meetcraft is evil. It's an abomination against mankind, and it needs to be destroyed. And for her, she has her army working to wipe out and kill all Meetcrafters. And then when that's done, they'll all kill themselves. That's how crazy she is. It's a horrifying cult. But her character, it seems to really appeal to that sci-fi reader who loves a good villain. In fact, a rock band from New Jersey loved it so much they approached me to write a song about her. And of course, I mean, how many books get a song about them unless you're Lord of the Rings? And so of course I said yes. And last February they released a song called Tendril and Blade, which is all about the story's villain, Sasha.
I know I was researching a lot about you, and I came across some videos, and they were giving the storyline of your book, and there was video. You know, there's clips and different. they showed all the different characters from your book. And using my abilities, I'm really good at picking out things, and that was the one that really stood out to me. I don't know if it was her outfit or just that really cool look that she had going on, but the rest of them, the main character, awesome. He's a nice young boy, and then he's got his girlfriends, and he's got his female friends, and he sort of went in that order. But then you got to her, and I was like, yeah, okay, now it's getting really cool.
Yeah.
I like her. And so I'm not too surprised. I'm not too surprised that you said that everyone likes her. I think that's really great. Now she's a little bit older, right? She
Yeah,
looks a little bit old. She's not a teenager, it doesn't look like.
no, she's like 32, 33.
Yeah.
She's been around a while. She's had a hard life with her own Meetcraft situation. When she got it, she ended up accidentally causing the death of her mother, and she became estranged from her father. And she has a very tragic life. And so you can kind of see where her motivation is to want to end this, in her mind, this corrupt Meetcraft ability. And for her, it just descended into madness.
So I think if you've got a video game going on, or even a board game, and little figurines, I bet she's going to do really well.
Yeah, I would have to definitely make her overpowered.
Yeah, gonna have to work really hard on that character, make her look super cool, really cool costumes, and make her tall or big.
Yeah, I love her.
So you were saying that she has powers, and she can't see. She wants his because she doesn't have enough. She wants
right.
more power as usual. The villain always wants more power, right?
Exactly. The storyline is that there's been a 2 decades long war with these scientist groups, and it's kind of reached a stalemate because everybody knows everybody's powers. All the rules still apply. You can only do so much. And then Jake comes along, and his power is unlike anybody else's. And so Sasha believes if she can control him, it will turn the tide of the war in her favor. So she really wants to possess him. Then she becomes sort of obsessed with him and his sort of do-gooder, always take the moral high ground attitude, and she doesn't know what to make of it. She really wants to figure out what makes this kid tick.
So go ahead.
I was saying it sort of becomes a Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs relationship with the Jodie Foster character. It becomes she sort of tries to get into his head a lot, and he's doing his best to not be around her at all.
Last night, my spirit guides had me watch a particular movie, and they were very insistent. For the past few days, they wanted me to watch it. Nah, I wasn't in the mood. Finally, last night, they're like, no, you got to watch it now. Like, now's the time. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. It was Superman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And of course, was it Lex Luthor's the villain, the bad guy? And it was interesting because this was the one where they introduced those 3 villains on Kryptonite. They got sent off into space. And the woman, she had the really kick-ass boots, so I was always looking at her boots going, I want those boots. And I think it sort of led me to your character. Because today I was researching the characters of your book, and that's when I came across Sasha. And I don't remember the name of the villain in Superman because they don't really I think it's in the second one. Is it the second Superman or the third one? They introduce them. They come back to Earth and they try to destroy everything on Earth.
Correct, the second one.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. Was it Ursula? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't. They just said it the once, I think, before they sent him off into space. They said her name once.
Right.
I sort of relate. When you look at that character and you look at Sasha and Trinity, you got the same kind of female character going on there. Not that Trinity's a good girl, but you've got that sort of hardcore, tough as nails, black leather girl going on. So I think that's going to be really good. I can see why your fans like that. I can see why they like her.
And imagine crossing badass Trinity with crazy Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
That's who Sasha is.
Yeah. Everyone loves Harley Quinn. I know my daughter does.
Well, if I had my dream cast for this movie, I would cast Margot Robbie as Sasha. I think that would be ideal.
Yeah. If she's not too typecast already, right? If
That,
she's
that would
not
be my,
already too much into her Harley Quinn role, right? It's hard to break away once you're sort of, like you've got Tomb Raider, right? You've got your Laura Croft. It's really hard to break them out of it, but I could see her doing it really well.
that would be my one fear, is that she's done crazy before.
Maybe ask your fans. See who the fans want. Give them to say
Totally.
maybe two or three names, and then go for that person. Because
I
whatever,
sense a pull in my future.
yeah, I see. It's always what the fans want. You've got to please them, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what are your next projects then?
Oh man. Okay. So I was getting back into screenwriting. In fact, I'm writing a zombie apocalypse horror comedy with my son right now. And then I've got a 90s horror comedy, sort of vampire comedy, coming up next. But I'm kind of torn because now my publisher really wants me to do more Meetcraft stories. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can divide up my time and get those books done as well.
I have an idea. I have an idea.
Oh, let's hear it.
One of each in the same movie. You've got your vampire. You've got your zombie. You've got your Meetcraft. A way to introduce them. Every character has sort of like an XMen type thing going on.
I
Right?
see. Yeah, that could be funny. You should mention that. There's in the third book, there is a side story of a potential, what they call them, Meetcraft vampires. And instead of like sucking human blood like a vampire does, these ones feed off of the Meetcraft liquid nanotech inside of their fellow Meetcrafters. And so that becomes a sort of side object of obsession for Sasha.
They become mutants. Like, what happens if you cross a vampire with a zombie? Would
Yeah,
that be a great? Would that be a great storyline?
I saw some comedy sketch about how someone posed that question: if a vampire bit a zombie, what would happen? Would the vampire become a zombie, or would the zombie become a vampire?
Like, if they got married and had babies, what would they have? Wouldn't that be cool? That'd be a great story. So like an Addams Family in a way, but you've got the.
I was just gonna say Addams Family or the Munsters.
With a DNA crossing.
There you go.
X-Men meets Addams Family. Yeah.
When science goes awry.
Well, it's all about being creative. It's all about, expanding and being a little bit more dramatic and going really extreme, and then seeing where it goes. Sometimes you plan this, but instead it goes this direction, right?
So true. It's so true. Even when I outline a story, I have it from start to finish outlined, but then along the way, the characters decide to do something different.
They always do. I know when I was writing, I've got a fiction book myself, and I know it sort of took on a life of its own. As I was writing about the characters were developing. All of a sudden, I saw them going this way, and I would change everything. It was like, no, now they're going to do this, and all of a sudden, it was like they were writing the book. Like my characters were almost like alive, and they were writing the story. So where it went, it was almost exciting for me. I was like almost reading a story as I was writing it. It was like,
yeah, you were getting surprised.
Huh?
I said, yeah, like you were getting surprised as it was happening.
Yeah, it was like it was coming from them. It was coming from outer space somewhere. It was coming in and writing itself. It was exciting.
It's so fun.
Now I want to get on the topic of did I read somewhere that you do ghost hunting or paranormal research or investigation?
Yes, my wife and I have been paranormal investigators for about 15 years. Just started as kind of a hobby. We were kind of into the idea of it before the shows all took off. Before there was even Ghost Hunters and all the shows, we had this concept of, oh, it'd be really great to find out. Just we want answers. And then once we started seeing shows like Ghost Hunters way back, 10, 12 years ago, we thought, oh, there's actually people doing this. And so we started building up our equipment and going on these little ghost hunts. And we've been to a lot of places, investigated a lot of haunted locations. And it's really a fascinating hobby to have. We don't do it on a serious, we're not trying to make a show or anything. We're just trying to get answers for ourselves as to what's going on in the afterlife. Even though we have our own ideas of it, we just like to investigate haunted locations and communicate with whatever spirits might be there. And we have a team.
It sort of reminds me of the Warrens. What year did you guys consider starting that?
We did this, let's see, 15 years ago. So it was like 2005, maybe 2006.
Yeah, sorry, I think the Warrens were before you.
Oh yeah, they were in the 70s. Yeah, that, and I hadn't heard of the Warrens until much later. And then I was like, oh, these guys have really pioneered the whole thing.
I have to admit, growing up in a psychic family and being psychic for my whole lifetime, I never even heard of them until that movie came out, The Conjuring. I didn't even know who they were, and yet they've been around for so long, and they were really well known.
It's
And
true.
but it was really interesting because I predicted her death, and I posted about it before she died, so I knew the day she was going to die. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, I felt sort of bad not knowing them more. They
Same
actually
there.
have quite a history behind them.
Yeah, I've done so much research, and I was kind of like sad too that I didn't know them before I had gotten started in this.
So tell me the most spookiest, ghostly, paranormal, supernatural event that happened to you.
You know,
Still to this day, you think about it.
I would say the coolest thing is that in all of our investigations, I've never come across anything that felt really scary or really horrible. It's been always been fascinating and always like, ooh, look at what we got. But I would say some of the best stuff. One of our very first investigations was at the Nordhoff Cemetery in Ojai. It's a little cemetery, doesn't have any gates on it. It's open at night. You can go in there, but it has a rumor of being pretty haunted. So we went in there. We put our recorders on a bench amongst the graves and went about 20 feet away to the little dirt road and sat down with our group, and we're just sort of asking questions of the spirit world and things like that with our K2 meters out and such. But when we went and collected our recordings, we got one of the best EVPs, electronic voice phenomenons, one of the best EVPs ever. It's out of nowhere. This little girl has sort of this strange or haunting moan, almost like she's saying mama, but it can't quite make it out. But it's so vividly clear and so loud in the EVP, and none of us heard it with our own ears. So that's one of my favorite pieces because it just really, puts a pin in what we're looking to do. It's just such a solid capture. Another one is at this place called the Patterson House in kind of near Temecula, and there's a cradle that rocks on its own. And if we did everything we could to debunk it, but anytime we stopped it, eventually it would start rocking again, and we captured that on film a couple times.
Nice. I'll share one.
Good, please do. Yes.
And I wasn't doing any research at the time. Like I wasn't doing any paranormal, supernatural investigations or anything. I was really just literally in my own home sitting there. I can't remember what I was doing, but I was just sitting on my couch. I think I was like about to watch a movie or something. And I have quite a, vast amount of books and movies. And I've got this huge, tall bookcases, all books just piled in there. But I'm really neat. So they were all neatly stacked, nothing like leaning or anything. They're all perfectly in their place. And I'm just sitting there alone, minding my own business. All of a sudden, I hear this plunk, and I look, and a book had fallen by itself and was laying on the floor. And I'm going, what the heck? Because I know all my books are all put in there all properly. And I looked at it, and it wasn't a book I had touched recently.
Mm.
And so I picked it up, and it said Merlin. It was a book on magicians and wizards. And I was
How
like,
cool.
okay, it was cool, except one problem. I didn't have it recorded. I wasn't filming it, thinking something's freaky going to happen in my home, which it usually does. But I should have known that. I should always have like cameras going at all times. That was just, to this day, I'm still going, okay, what was that message? Some magician, some Merlin, some wizard somewhere is like, hey, here I am.
Yeah. I mean, is your house typically have haunting activities, or
Always. I
so
mean,
you get a lot
wherever
of
I
visitors?
move, and my daughter, she still talks about it to this day. She notices like everywhere I moved, it would be haunted. But I have this theory. I'm not quite sure if I just pick haunted houses. Like the place I live in now, like a woman had died before I moved in. And the place I looked at just prior that I decided not to buy, and I bought this one instead, a woman had just died in that one. So it was sort of like following me everywhere I was looking at. Someone had died. But everywhere I move, I think it's just that I bring it out. You know, they know who I am. The spirits always know who I am. They always manage to find me. They tell me. And I think that's all it is. You know, it's just I'm more sensitive. They know it, and it draws them out. You know,
I
someone
think
else
that's
could move
true.
in here and they probably wouldn't even hear or see anything, right?
I think that's very true. I think when the spirit world finds someone sensitive like yourself, they want to communicate. They have things to say or things to do, and they realize, oh, someone, so I can reach somebody on the other side, and then they flock to it.
And that's why I don't sleep. Because even when I'm sleeping, they try to communicate with me and they come in my dreams, you know? So it's like, oh, well, comes with the territory. It's part of my job.
That has got to be annoying at times.
Only when I get sort of tired, like I sort of wake up not exhausted, but I have about anywhere between 10 and 20 dreams now per night, and they're all premonition dreams. Like they're not like regular dreams that other people may have. I actually have dreams that if something's going to happen and occur in the news, you know, so I'm dreaming about it prior. And and so yeah, I get about 10 to 20 now. So it can be tiring.
That's a lot.
But actually, that's what I want to talk to you about earlier. Remember I said that we're going to get into time travel talk?
Yes.
So it took me a while to realize, you know, having this my whole life and the dreams increasing, I used to think that I was going into like psychics would say, well, you go into the afterlife. You know, you've got this cord and you're still attached from birth, and so you can go back and forth between the living and the dead. But I also realized I time travel because I'm actually there experiencing exactly what's going to happen, but that time hasn't happened yet. You know, it happens like a week later or a few months or years later. So my theory is that I've got to be back in the past, or I mean in the future. This is the past. Where we are right now that we think is the present time, it's quite possible we're in the past, and I time travel. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie 12 Monkeys.
Which one?
With Bruce Willis, 12 Monkeys, Brad
Oh
Pitt.
yeah. That was a
Yeah.
great.
So that's us time traveling, you know. So I'm in the future, and then I come back and I post about it on Facebook. You know, I say, guess what? This is what I dreamt, and then it happens later. So I've got to be a time traveler.
Does it feel like a astral projection kind of situation where it's just your soul, your spirit going to those other times?
Yeah, because I'm not there in body. I mean, I have body and I can feel it, I can see, and I know I see myself in mirrors in a dream, but I'm actually still remaining in body here. So yeah, I believe that I'm astral projecting. And I've had boyfriends where they say they don't even hear me when I'm sleeping. I don't even move. They say that they can't even tell if I'm breathing. But some of them say that they've actually worried because they had to check to make sure I was still breathing.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's sort of strange. It's like I go sort of comatose or something when I'm sleeping. For me, I don't think I do. I think I toss and turn all night and I wake up and I'm writing down dreams all day. But my boyfriends are like, no, no, no. And I've had this one guy, he's in audio and he works for a very big TV station. And for a week, he was recording my sleep. And every single morning, he would put it on the computer and he would listen to it and he would have me listen with him. And he noticed, he goes, I can't even tell that you're in the room. I can't even tell that you're in the bed unless you turn and you pull the blanket. There's no sounds. You make no sound when you sleep at all.
Huh. And funny, I was just going to ask if you've ever recorded yourself sleeping, and now you have.
And I still kept them because he gave me all of them. He gave me all the audio files. And
Wow.
the reason why is because he wanted to take it to someone he knew at the university here at UBC. He said he wanted to get it checked because he said it was really odd because every single morning when he listened to it, it was always different sounds that he heard. He said sometimes there was like a tap, 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 tap. And then other times it would be like, and then all these other strange sounds. And that's why he gave them to me. He said, you know, you've got to keep these. We've got to get these, someone to check this. It was very bizarre, he said.
That's interesting. I wonder if those sounds were a visitor, a spirit, because I had a very similar experience on the Star of India ship in San Diego. We had put our video camera, I had set my camera up to record while we were off in another part of the ship investigating. And we heard sights and sounds, and things were thumping, and the video got all distorted for no reason whatsoever. It was completely still. So I'm wondering if that's what you had going on then.
Yeah, because we ruled out everything. Like I like to be a skeptic and make sure it's not,
Yeah,
me
same here.
making the noise or, a fan making the noise, right? Like we tried to rule out everything and there was nothing. And he said it was really strange because every single night it was a different type of pattern noise, completely different from the night before.
And that's the best when you try and debunk it and nothing, you can't recreate it, you can't debunk it at all, then you've got something.
What I'd like to do next is video. I
Oh,
would
for
like
sure.
to see if I can capture anything happening to me while I'm sleeping, because I've actually had blankets pulled off me.
Oh,
And
wow.
it happened 2 nights in a row. And it was a futon that was on the floor. So it wasn't like a high bed and the blanket just got pulled off and fell off me from the way I moved or shifted. Instead, I'm
Right.
laying on the floor on the futon. I've got this really big quilt. And the second night, I felt it and I woke up, and I purposely did not show that I was awake. I didn't want the spirit knowing that I was catching on. So
Yeah.
I opened my eyes very carefully and I watched, and I saw it being pulled off me. It went from around my chest all the way down to my toes. It pulled it all the way down that way.
Oh, I love it. You need to set some video up.
Wouldn't that be great to capture that on video?
It's amazing.
I
I tell you, if you lived in Southern California, I would have me and my team come out to your house and investigate.
would love it. I would love that.
Mm.
Okay, so your next project is going to be comics and video games, right?
It is, absolutely.
And then
You know,
the film, the movie.
and actually I forgot to mention the absolute front of the line project right now is a TV pilot, a science fiction TV pilot I co-wrote with actress Gina Nemo from the old 21 Jump Street show.
Oh,
Yeah, she and I worked together on this really cool sci-fi concept script that has some time travel in it, actually. And it's called Finch and Skull, based on the main two characters. And it's basically Mad Max meets Game of Thrones. It's got a lot of post-apocalyptic times, and then they go back to a very brutal medieval times, and all in this investigation to find out what happened to the world, why it
I
went
mean,
post-apocalyptic.
21 Jump Street. That was filmed here in Vancouver, right?
Yes, in fact, Gina's mentioned that.
I even dated a guy who went to, I think it was the tech school where it was filmed. He
Oh,
used to go to that school, and he talked about how they were always filming there when he was attending it.
how cool is that, right?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, lots of stuff coming. 2022 is going to be a big year for a lot of creatives, I think.
Well, apocalyptic, it's pretty well good timing for that kind of a thing.
I know,
What's
sadly.
going on. Yeah. Anyways, I am so glad to have you as a guest star on my show today. I am really happy that you accepted. And again, this is Brian Fitzpatrick. And check out his books, Meetcraft, and also his screenwriting. And oh, there it is. Yeah, no, show the camera.
I got 3 of them here for you.
Show all 3. There we go. There's the first.
And my digital artist son created these covers. He's graduated with a degree in digital art.
And that's the third one.
There you go. All 3 books.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you having me on. This is a lot of fun. I'd love to chat again about paranormal stuff and and other things.
And where do they find you?
You can find me at brianfitzpatrickbooks.com. You can always find me. I love to engage with my audience and my readers on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. All of it under @author Brian Fitzpatrick. You can find me on all those places. And I love to engage. So hit me up.
Great. And I am Oracle Laura. This is the Oracle Laura Show, and you can literally just Google me and everything will pop up about me. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much, Laura. Take care.